Chicago, June. The day suffocated you with heat, so my dorm buddy, Sam, dragged me to a party at some indoor pool club downtown. I'd never seen anything like it. Calling it a scene of pure excess would be an understatement. The centerpiece of the dance floor was a sprawling aquatic playground, with colored lights inside water jets illuminating the women in their bikinis. The few scraps of fabric on everyone, men and women alike, barely concealed anything, leaving far too much to the imagination. The bass from the electronic music vibrated through the floor. Just as I was about to tap Sam on the shoulder and head out, I saw her. A woman completely different from anyone else there. Every step she took captivated me. She was wearing a pale green silk gown, holding a glass of red wine as she leaned against the spiral staircase. Words flashed through my mind. Elegant, poised, restrained, ethereal. She seemed like a goddess who didn't belong among mortals, yet also like a sprite poised to take flight. She was impossibly, flawlessly beautiful. I'd never seen anyone like her. I didn't want to disturb the perfect image she created, but then she seemed to glance in my direction. In that one look, I felt a lifetime pass. My buddy Sam saw her too, and came over, slinging an arm around my shoulder. "Dude, don't even think about it," he said. "She's not in our league." I knew we were from different worlds, but I couldn't stop the overwhelming urge to know her name, to know everything about her. Who is she? It was the first time I had ever felt such a desperate need to get close to someone, to know them. Sam told me. Her name was Serafina Vance, the sole heir to the Vance Corporation. Most people just called her Ms. Vance. I had no idea why she'd be in a place like this, and Sam didn't either. Logically, people like her disdain these kinds of scenes. Maybe she was just bored, looking for a distraction. As if possessed, I started towards the staircase. Just as I reached the top step, a man in a black suit blocked my path. He was built like a linebacker, good half-foot taller than my own 6'1" frame. Just as I was about to try and explain myself, I heard a voice, light and clear, as melodious as a bird song. "Let him through." She was sitting in the center of a large sofa, her gaze fixed on the wine glass in her hand, not even sparing me a glance. I took a seat on the couch nearest to her. I handed her a cocktail. I'd mixed myself. She finally looked up at me. Seeing her up close, I realized I had no words to describe her. Her brows were exquisitely shaped, and her eyes, when they moved, held the sly cunning of a fox, stunning, yet full of life. She noticed me staring, and a faint smile touched her lips. For me, realizing my rudeness, I quickly looked away and nodded. "I made it. It should be pretty good, but I don't know if you'll like it." She set down her wine and picked up the glass I offered, taking a delicate sip. She smiled. "It's very good. Thank you." I smiled back. Imnoias. She lightly tapped my glass with hers. Her response was 2 words, spoken so softly I almost missed them. Serafina Vance. That was the first time I met her. I never expected to see her again at the end of that same month. It was our last get-together before graduation, and we'd booked a private room at the Cypress Room. The thought of our 4 years together ending, of everyone going their separate ways, had all of us drinking heavily. I'd had more than my fair share. I stepped out into the courtyard for some fresh air. Standing under the covered walkway, I saw a figure. It was her. A lit cigarette was in her hand, and she'd changed into a black sheath dress that made her look like a princess of darkness. A tiny mole near her, I caught the light. She watched me for a moment before her lips curved into a slight smile. I knew she recognized me. I slowly walked over to her. "Small world. Here for dinner?" She glanced at the cigarette in her hand, held it up for me to see, then brought it back to her lips for a slow drag. The smoke swirled around her for a second before vanishing, and as it cleared, I caught a light, fresh scent from her perfume. I stood with her in silence until she finished it. She offered me the pack. I waved it away, a smile on my face. "I don't smoke." She gave me a look, her tone teasing. "Such a good boy." She seemed about to take another one, pulling it halfway out of the pack before glancing at me and pushing it back in. I noticed a disposable cup by her side with what looked like 3 cigarette butts floating inside. "Are you here by yourself?" Serafina asked. "No, with classmates. It's our graduation dinner." I decided to take a chance. Have you eaten yet? Want to join us?" She studied me for a long moment, then suddenly smiled. "What was your name again?" I hadn't expected that she remembered me, but had forgotten my name. I told her again. This time, she seemed to repeat it silently to herself before looking back at me. Maybe next time. With that, she left. I stood there, wondering when next time would be. Later, when we went to pay the bill, the server informed us it had already been taken care of. We all asked around, but no one admitted to paying. Then a thought struck me. After my friends left, I went back to the server. Excusez-moi. The person who paid our bill. Was she wearing a black dress? I reconsidered. Someone like her wouldn't pay personally. Was it Serafina Vance? The server replied. It was an order from Ms. Vance's assistant. She said you were a friend of hers. Okay, thank you. It really was her. I asked about the total. It wasn't a small amount. It was nothing to her, of course, but I knew I had to pay her back if I ever got the chance. My post-graduation trip was all planned out. A month of volunteer work out west in July, followed by a tour of a few cities in August. My last stop was Seattle. By the time I got to the hotel, I was soaked to the bone. My flight back to Chicago was supposed to be that afternoon, but now I was stuck in Seattle. The announcement about the grounded flights came over the airport speakers while I was already searching for a hotel on my phone. The closest ones were all booked solid. I had no choice but to head downtown. Dragging my suitcase into the hotel lobby, I realized my white t-shirt was completely transparent, clinging to my body. I pulled a jacket out of my bag and threw it on. I ran a hand through my drenched hair. Hi, do you have any rooms available? I asked the front desk clerk. She gave me an apologetic look. I'm so sorry, sir, but we're fully booked. This was the third hotel I tried. With weather like this, finding a room was going to be next to impossible. Exhausted, I slumped down onto my suitcase and watched the torrential downpour outside. Feeling my damp clothes, I figured I might as well wait here for a bit. The lobby was quiet except for the sound of the rain, until the ding of an elevator caught my attention. I turned to see a woman in a dusty rose gown, followed by two imposing bodyguards in black suits. She was on the phone, her brow furrowed slightly as she looked outside. She walked past me towards the entrance. Just as I was debating whether to say something, she turned and called my name. Lau! A wave of pleasant surprise hit me as I scrambled to my feet. I couldn't believe she still remembered me. Yeah, hey, what a coincidence. She looked at my soaked hair, then glanced down at my clothes. Here on vacation? Yeah, but my flight got canceled, I said, scratching the back of my head, trailing off. No rooms, right? She saw right through my predicament. I wanted to refuse any help, but when I looked in her eyes, I got flustered. Suddenly, I didn't want to lie. I just nodded. Go up to my suite, get a shower, and change into something dry. She pulled out a key card and handed it to me. It's a penthouse. There are plenty of rooms. Pick one. I have to go take care of something. We can talk when I get back. All I could do was nod. I watched her push through the door, get into a waiting car, and disappear into the curtain of rain. Holding her key card, I went up to the top floor suite. There had to be at least 6 bedrooms. I didn't pry, just chose the one closest to the entrance. By the time I had showered and changed, it was already 6 o'clock. I looked at the key card on the nightstand. I decided not to go out, worried she wouldn't be able to get back in without it. I settled onto the sofa near the floor-to-ceiling windows and played games on my phone. When I heard a noise at the door, I quickly got up to open it. She paused, surprised, then looked up at me, a faint smile on her lips. I thought you'd have gone out. You left the key card with me. I didn't know when you'd be back and was afraid you wouldn't be able to get in. I stepped aside to let her pass. She smiled softly as she walked by, and I caught that same lovely, fresh scent. She tossed her clutch onto a corner of the sofa and went to the fridge, pulling out a bottle of water. I stepped forward and twisted the cap open for her. Her smile widened. Thanks. She took a couple small sips, then turned to me. Have you eaten? I shook my head. What about you? I don't eat much at night. Just give me a minute. She picked up her clutch and walked into the master bedroom. A few moments later, she reemerged with a matching shawl draped over her shoulders, having swapped her high heels for a pair of flats. Let's go. The restaurant downstairs. I already called and had them prepare something. I followed her to the restaurant. It was after 8, and only a few tables were occupied. But Serafina's arrival still turned every head in the room. The hotel manager personally escorted us to a private dining room, and someone quickly brought in a pot of fragrant herbal tea. I have another key card, she said softly after taking a sip of tea, looking at me. I understood she was explaining that I was free to come and go as I pleased, that I didn't need to wait for her. Thank you. I'll check with the front desk later to see if a room has opened up. If so, I'll move out as soon as I can. There are plenty of rooms in the suite, she said, glancing out the window. And with this weather, it's unlikely anything will be available for a while. I knew she was right, but I felt bad imposing. By the way, I never got to thank you for dinner that night. And now this. I feel like I'm putting you out. She waved it off. Like I said, you'll have a chance to treat me sometime. Okay, so, can I get your number? So I can contact you when we're back in Chicago. She adjusted her shawl, a small, unreadable smile on her face. Someone in her position had probably heard lines like that 1,000 times. I waited silently, assuming she was just going to let the topic die. But then she spoke. Do you know what it means when someone like me gives out their number? What? For me, it means one of two things: a business partnership or a messy entanglement. She raised the teacup, her lips glistening as she took a sip. I couldn't look away. So which one are you? Her question almost made me choke. I composed myself, forcing a smile. Well, which one do you think I am, boss? She stared at me for a long moment, then let out a soft laugh. Boss? I didn't say anything. She took out a slim cigarette. I watched as she pinched the filter, and I heard a tiny click like something inside had snapped. The cigarette case was unlike any I'd ever seen, clearly custom-made. Noticing my gaze, she offered one to me. Want one? I shook my head. Just curious. She chuckled, shielding the flame with her hand. You really are a curious little thing, aren't you? The way she said it was so fond. Anyone overhearing would have mistaken us for a couple sharing an intimate joke. Dinner arrived shortly after. She ate very little, the only thing she finished being a small bowl of soup. By the time she'd smoked another cigarette, I was done eating. Do you smoke a lot? I didn't mean to pry. I was genuinely concerned. Not really. I've actually been cutting back lately. This is cutting back. She'd had 2 just during dinner. And I was pretty sure she'd smoked 3 in just a few minutes that night in the courtyard. Are you always this inquisitive? And this? Caring? What do you mean? You like telling people what to do. I shook my head. I rarely pay attention to other people. The implication hung in the air. You're not just other people. She didn't respond, extinguishing the half-smoked cigarette as she stood up. We didn't leave the hotel for 3 days. She didn't seem busy. We'd find a movie and spend the day curled up on the sofa. She loved horror movies, but was terrified of them. Seeing her frozen in fear, too scared to even speak, was strangely adorable. On the 4th day, she left early, leaving behind a note. Her handwriting was elegant, yet carried a trace of boldness, just like her. Utterly captivating. I have something to do today. Just 6 words. No mention of where she was going or when she'd be back. But looking at the words she had written, stroke by stroke, I couldn't help but feel my heart stir. The weather was still gloomy, the rain relentless. As I watched the droplets trace paths down the window, I found myself for the first time enjoying a dreary, rainy day. At dinner time, I went down to the restaurant, as usual. The manager must have gotten used to seeing us together, because he had a private room ready for me. Thank you, but I'm fine out here. No need to go to the trouble. I politely declined his offer and ordered a few small dishes and a simple bowl of pasta. I had no idea how the meals were being billed, but I assumed everything was being charged to the suite, which meant Serafina was paying for my food and lodging. I just finished my pasta when a woman approached my table and started a conversation. I just smiled and shook my head. Serafina happened to walk in right at that moment. She didn't come over immediately, instead taking a long, circular route around the dining room. She timed it perfectly, arriving at my table just after the other woman had left. She sat down across from me. The manager quickly brought over a pot of her usual herbal tea, light and fragrant. "What was your major in college?" she asked casually, taking a sip of tea. I was surprised she was asking a personal question. It felt like a step forward in our relationship. I smiled. "Computer science." She nodded, pausing for a moment before opening her clutch and handing me a business card. I took it, and my eyes went wide. It was the card of the general manager of Apex Innovations. Anyone in tech knew that company. But how could someone like me, with just a bachelor's degree, get a foot in the door there? It's a friend's company. You can go see him. I knew exactly what she was doing. She was using her connections to get me a job anyone would kill for her. But for some reason, my heart sank. I smiled and pushed the card back toward her. No, thank you. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not as passionate about work as you are. I already lined up a job at a small company before I left. I'm planning to start as soon as I get back to Chicago. She was still smiling. She didn't take the card, just picked up her teacup. I'm flying to D.C. tomorrow. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. A sharp, stinging pain spread through my chest. Okay, travel safe. I had a million things I wanted to say, but nothing came out. I knew that once she left, we'd probably never see each other again. Our entire connection was born from my own selfish desire. She left on a red-eye flight that night. Before I left the suite, I looked one last time at the sofa where we had curled up together and gave a long glance towards her bedroom door. Back in Chicago, life returned to normal. I started my job at the small tech firm. I never found out if the hotel staff told her about the note I'd left. Hotel manager: Ms. Vance, it seems something of yours was left behind at the hotel. Serafina: what is it? Hotel manager: it's a note, and $2,000 in cash. We believe Mr. Hayes left it. The housekeeping staff had found it on a table while cleaning the suite. Knowing who was staying there, they immediately reported it to the manager. Serafina: just get rid of it. The manager hesitated, but had to agree. Wait, Serafina said, just before hanging up. Mail it to me. Sitting in the back of her town car, Serafina stared at her phone, a slow smile spreading across her face. Time flew by. Before I knew it, it was Christmas. As if on cue, snow began to fall over Chicago, dusting the ground in a layer of white. I was sitting in a booth at some bar, scrolling aimlessly through my phone, the drink in my hand as tasteless as water. As I was leaving, my phone buzzed. I looked at the number and my eyes widened. The last 6 digits were all 8s. I answered just before it went to voicemail. The other end was silent, just the sound of soft breathing. I knew it was her. Soha? I didn't use her full name. She let out a rare, soft laugh. In that instant, my heart felt like a watch gone haywire, ticking uncontrollably. I didn't ask how she got my number or how she'd been. We fell into an easy silence, as if we'd just seen each other yesterday. For someone in her position, finding a person's information was simple. Are you busy? Serafina's voice was a warm murmur. I stood in an empty space by the window, watching people walk by outside, my heart filled with joy. Not at all. Where are you? Want to come over? I can send a car. Okay. The car took me to a secluded estate in the suburbs. A massive, decorated Christmas tree stood in the yard, and not far from it, a bonfire crackled. She was sitting there, wrapped in a blanket, staring quietly into the flames. As I approached, her face, illuminated by the firelight, turned towards me. She looked calm, but I could sense she wasn't in a good mood. Looks like someone's in the mood for one of my cocktails tonight, I said, smiling as I sat next to her. I tossed another log into the fire, sending a shower of sparks into the air. She raised a glass of red wine in her hand, her eyes twinkling. Is that my present? She set the glass down and held her hand out like a child waiting for a gift. It's my birthday today. I froze for a second, then gently tapped her outstretched hand. The sound was soft, but it seemed to echo in the quiet space. She raised an eyebrow, a playful smirk on her face. I'll owe you one. It's not fair. You didn't give me any warning. I complained quietly, but I was smiling. I couldn't believe I was getting to spend such an important day with her. Serafina nodded gently, a soft smile on her lips. Okay. We stayed outside for about half an hour before heading back into the house. As she stood up, she swayed slightly, and I quickly reached out to steady her arm. She was smiling, and in the movement of her eyes, that little mole seemed to work a kind of magic, mesmerizing me with a single glance. I gently supported her as I walked her to her bedroom. She collapsed onto the bed, looking so small, like a captured sprite who had lost her freedom. Go to sleep, Sarah. I'll tell you a bedtime story, I said with a smile, tucking the covers around her. She seemed to have shed her defenses, lying peacefully under the plush comforter with only her eyes visible, the light in them scattered like stardust. She looked a little drunk. If it's a bad story, there's a penalty, she murmured, her eyes slowly closing. Deal. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Her breathing was light and even. By the time I finished one story, she was fast asleep. The next morning, I was woken up by the housekeeper. I had spent the night on the living room sofa. When I sat up, I noticed a wool blanket draped over me. Looking out into the yard, I saw her talking with two people in business suits. Clearly a work matter. A fur-trimmed capelet framed her face, making it look even smaller. She took a delicate sip of tea while listening to their report. When she turned her head and saw me, a smile touched her lips. She said something to the two men, who quickly departed. By the time I walked over to her, a full breakfast had been laid out. The story wasn't bad. I smiled and poured her a glass of milk, placing it by her hand. So, is there a reward? The reward is you get to have breakfast with me. I am deeply honored. I glanced at the time. I still had a while before I had to be at work. She noticed my glance and gestured to one of her staff. Have the car ready to take Mr. Hayes where he needs to go. Thanks for breakfast, Sarah. I should get going. I took 2 steps, then turned back. I thought about it, and I still need to say it. Happy birthday. It was rare to see her smile so brightly. She raised a hand in my direction. I knew she was reminding me about the gift I owed her. I smiled and raised my own hand, giving a little pat to the air. After that, I started seeing her more and more. She would invite me to dinner, and we'd talk like old friends. I'd share funny stories with her and take her to new places. Gradually, I started appearing with her at work functions, especially dinners with clients. Even though I didn't follow her social circle, I started hearing some nasty rumors. Once, I was with her at a pretty important dinner. I went to the restroom and overheard some guys talking about her. I heard the heiress is keeping a pretty boy, one of them sneered. Guess it wasn't just a rumor. He's got the looks for sure. Heard he's a fresh college grad. Must be great in bed. How else would he land her? They say she handed that multi-million-dollar Apex project to his friend, just like that. Didn't even blink. Probably slept his way into it. They call her Ms. Vance to her face, but who knows how wild she is behind closed doors. A shame we don't get a chance to. Before he could finish the disgusting sentence, my fist was already flying. When he saw it was me, he froze. I didn't give him a chance to recover, landing 2 more punches before the other guy managed to pull us apart. When I got back to the table, the 2 of them were sitting there silently. Serafina, at the head of the table, saw me and smiled faintly, leaning in to whisper, "Did some beauty distract our Mr. Hayes?" She always called me Mr. Hayes when she was teasing me. My anger had mostly subsided by the time I sat down. I smiled back, refilling her water glass. Just ran into a couple of clowns. Couldn't help but stare. The 2 men flinched when they saw me speaking with her. As the holidays approached, work suddenly got insane. My boss called me into his office specifically to tell me to go pick up my end-of-year bonus from accounting. I was confused. "Sir, I thought you had to be with the company for 3 years to get the annual bonus." My manager just laughed and clapped me on the shoulder. "Haven't you noticed all the huge contracts we've landed lately? It's a company-wide perk." "What? You're not happy about getting more money?" I tried to ask more, but he practically escorted me to the accounting department like I was a visiting dignitary. Thinking about the recent rumors, I knew what was happening. Someone had put 2 and 2 together. I'd been seen with her in too many places. It was impossible for there not to be some ripple effect. Someone was probably trying to curry favor by proxy. I pulled out my phone and sent her a message. "Leo, got a raise. Dinner's on me. Serafina. In that case, I'm ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. Leo, your gift is ready, by the way. I'll bring it with me. Serafina, I was starting to think you were going to bundle it with next year's gift." I laughed at the screen. "Leo, it took some time to get. Sorry to keep you waiting, Sarah. Serafina, we'll see if it was worth the wait." I had it wrapped in brown craft paper, tucked safely inside my backpack. When I took it out later at the Cypress Room, I saw her eyes light up. I knew she would love it. A belated birthday present. The moment she took it, she knew what it was. This isn't easy to find these days. She held the vinyl record, studying it for a moment before looking up at me. "I saw you had a vintage record player in your room once. I thought you might like this." She was genuinely happy. I could see it in the starlight of her eyes. It made me smile. "I'm in a good mood today. What do you want?" "Name it," she said with a playful wink. I smiled back at her. "Anything? You'll agree to anything." Her eyes crinkled at the corners. "Let's hear it." She was so clever, like a little fox deliberately showing its tail to tempt you. Yet every word was measured with a businesswoman's calculation. "Let's eat first." I signaled the waiter for a bottle of red wine. I rarely drank, but I'd started to, mostly to keep her company. She saw this, and her eyes filled with amusement. Looks like Mr. Hayes got quite the raise. That's right. Do your worst and bankrupt me. We savored that meal, eating slower than ever before. By the end of it, she was pleasantly drunk. As I helped her into the car, she grabbed my hand. Leo, what do you want? After tonight, the offer's off the table. I looked into her hazy eyes and spoke seriously. Are you drunk? Will you even remember what I say right now? She smiled. It's fine. Nothing too serious. Okay, then listen closely. I leaned in, bringing my lips close to her ear, and whispered, I want your heart, your real self. Can you give me that? Serafina seemed to freeze. She was silent for several seconds before leaning back against the seat, the smile completely gone from her eyes. I gently settled her in, closed the door, and stood by the window, watching her car drive away. After that night, it was like she had completely vanished from my world. It was terrifyingly simple for someone to cut another person out of their life. Her world was like a fortress. Unless she opened the gates for me, I would never find her. My life went on. The time I spent with her felt like a dream. She had shown me another world, one I had never known existed. Her world. The days that followed were agonizing. I saw a post on Reddit asking people how they knew they'd met their true love. I couldn't stop myself from typing out the words that had been sitting in my heart. I feel like a mayfly, drifting through this world like a rootless tree, a river without a source. Where's the place I am meant to be? I would become a flicker of fire just to find you. Even if it consumed all my energy, even my life, I would do it willingly. For you, I have never hesitated. For you, I have never doubted. Looking back, I regretted it. I regretted pushing our relationship to this point. But another part of me didn't. I wanted her heart. Is it wrong to love someone? Love defies logic. Winter turned to spring, and summer arrived in a blur. I never thought I would actually see her again. My company had outsourced a project to Apex Innovations, and I was sent over to their office for a meeting. As I was waiting for the elevator, I saw a group of people walking towards me, surrounding a woman in a white dress. She seemed different, colder, more formidable than before. I stepped into an empty elevator car before they reached me. After all this time, seeing her again made my long-dormant heart start to beat again. Throughout the entire meeting, I kept glancing at my phone, rehearsing what I wanted to say over and over in my head. After so long, I sent her a message on iMessage. The moment I hit send, my mind felt like it was moving in slow motion. I was terrified she might have blocked me. To my relief, there was no red error message. Leo, did you like the music? I'd never had the chance to ask after we last parted. I waited for a long time. The message felt like a stone dropped into the ocean. Just when I thought she would never reply, my phone vibrated. 1 a.m, the suburban estate. She was curled up on the sofa, a shawl draped over her shoulders, a wine glass held precariously in her hand. I walked over and steadied the glass. She noticed a shadow in front of her and smiled, her voice soft and slurred, a tone I'd rarely heard from her. You could have asked for anything else. But that one thing, I don't have it. You're drunk. Let me help you to bed. I tried to pull her up. Instead, she used the momentum to pull me down with her. We tumbled onto the sofa, and I instinctively shielded the back of her head, my arms wrapping around her. She looked up at me, her eyes glistening with moisture. A wave of defeat washed over me. Fine, if you say you don't have it, you don't have it. I give up. Hearing this, the little fox in my arms wrapped her arms around my neck, holding me close. I froze, my throat tight. I looked down at her, my breathing shallow. Serafina, let go. The words came out in a raw, hoarse voice I didn't recognize. Leo, let's be together. Are you drunk? She laughed softly, her eyes shimmering. It's fine. Nothing too serious. I smiled, my grip on her tightening. I really want to kiss you right now. She slowly closed her eyes, her dark lashes fluttering. My gaze fell on that tiny mole, and I lowered my head and kissed her. We fell back into our old rhythm. I started taking her hiking. At first, she hated it. It was a rare treat to see her pleading for mercy. I opened the trunk of my car and took out the sneakers and jacket I'd brought for her. I slung a backpack over my shoulder and waited. You really don't give me any way out, do you? She grumbled. I lifted her up so she could sit on the edge of the trunk then knelt to take off her heels and put on the sneakers. You were sick a few weeks ago. I've been planning this ever since. It was just a cold. I helped her down. I get that you work hard, but you can't run your body into the ground. From now on, I'm going to make sure you get some exercise. She wrapped her arms around my neck, clinging to me like a koala. And what is this, might I ask? I'm trying to be cute. Maybe the big, mean trainer will take pity on me. I'll consider it tonight. Now, I absolutely loved it when she got flustered. I coaxed her along as we started up the trail. When you get tired, I'll carry you down. Don't worry, I won't abandon you. And so, we made our way up the mountain. Looking back, we had been together for 6 months. I didn't know what she was like in past relationships, but with me, she was nothing like the distant, untouchable person she had once been. I would accompany her to business dinners, and friends who knew her well would comment that she had changed. And she had a little. She was less autocratic, sometimes asking for my opinion. She had become a little clingy. It took us an hour and a half to reach the summit. A trail I could climb by myself in under 30 minutes took us 3 times as long. But it was the happiest hike of my life. She sat on a rock at the top, sipping water, her cheeks flushed. The wind messed up her hair, and it messed with my heart even more. But not all our moments were so perfect. She ran into trouble. Serafina started flying to Europe constantly. Our video calls became a daily routine. But then, for several days, I heard nothing. My messages went unanswered. By the time I found out what was happening, it was already on the news. Vance Corp's overseas finances were in crisis. For it to make the news, it had to be more than just a few $1,000,000. I started leaving her messages on iMessage again. I told her about funny things, amusing stories about what was happening at my company while she was away. Late one night, my phone vibrated. I knew it was her. I sat up and answered. Serafina, did I wake you? Her voice was thick with exhaustion. I sat up in bed and tried to sound cheerful. You did. I was just about to kiss you in my dream. You ruined it. Serafina laughed, though it sounded forced. I'll be gone for a while longer. She knew I knew. It was impossible not to. Yeah, so, is the great Miss Vance going bankrupt? This time, her laugh was real. Looks like it. I'll have to rely on you to support me. Good. I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Someone on her end called her name. I heard her respond. You should go. But no matter how busy you are, you have to eat properly. She hesitated, then added in a small voice, I'll be back as soon as I can. But things might get a little rough for you at your company. Rats deserting a sinking ship. I knew how it worked. The same people who had been fawning all over me would be the first to turn their backs. You know me. I won't let them push me around. I hung up and immediately dialed Sam's number. He was clearly still asleep, his voice groggy. Now, what's up this late? I said, you mentioned someone was interested in buying my software. What are they offering? Sam cleared his throat, suddenly more awake. Dude, are you in trouble? Of all my friends from college, Sam knew me best. He knew I didn't care about money, so for me to ask, it had to be serious. It's nothing. Just keep an eye out for me, okay? I'll buy you dinner sometime. No problem. But seriously, if you need anything, just say the word. Yeah, I know. After I hung up, the first light of dawn was breaking, painting the horizon a pale, pearly white. It was a month before I saw her again. She was thinner. So thin she looked like a gust of wind could blow her over. I held her in my arms, speechless for a long time. You didn't listen to me. Why didn't you eat properly? How do you know I wasn't eating? I was just missing you so much. Are you touched? She was back, which meant her mood was better. You're getting cheekier, I said, pulling her even tighter. Well, what can I do? You spoiled me. I guess I'm stuck with you then. Before I could say more, I noticed a man standing behind her, someone I'd never seen before. Serafina let go of me and took my hand to introduce us. But before she could speak, the man extended his hand. Donovan Sterling. Sarah has told me a lot about you. Such an intimate name. I'd never heard anyone call her that. It was always Ms. Vance or the heiress. I put my arm around her waist and shook his hand. Leo Hayes. Thanks for taking care of her on the trip. You must be starving, right? I gave her an affectionate look, then turned back to him. Why don't we get some food? I had to admit, Donovan Sterling had an air of class about him. Dressed impeccably in a European style, not a hair out of place. I'd been to Apex Innovations so many times, but this was the first time I'd met the man himself. When we arrived at the Cypress Room, The food was already on the table. Donovan took off his jacket and hung it on a nearby rack. Sarah told me she offered you a position at our company once, and you turned it down? I didn't answer right away. I asked the waiter for a hot towel for Serafina, poured her a cup of herbal tea, and waited until she was holding it before I responded. We didn't know each other well back then. A gift that big, I wouldn't have dared to accept it. I didn't look at Donovan's face, but I saw him tense out of the corner of my eye. Then he smiled. Mr. Hayes, you have a real way with words. I wasn't sure if he was referring to what I called Serafina or my compliment to his company. I just smiled. Serafina took a sip of tea. He wasn't being polite with me. He's just not as obsessed with work as we are. Indeed, it's rare to meet someone like Mr. Hayes. Donovan was smiling, but there was no warmth in his eyes. I avoided looking at him. The man reeked of corporate ambition. Every word and gesture was laced with a businessman's calculation and suspicion. I had no idea how Serafina could be friends with him. After dinner, I took Serafina home. She was exhausted and fell asleep in the car. I carried her straight to her bedroom. Just then, my phone rang. An unknown number. Not wanting to wake her, I closed the bedroom door and stepped out onto the balcony. Hello, who's this? The person on the other end cleared their throat. I frowned. It was him. Mr. Hayes, this is Donovan Sterling. I glanced back towards the bedroom. Yes? Is there something I can help you with? Is it a convenient time for you to talk? He was still probing. I suppressed my irritation. She's sleeping. Go ahead. I was hoping we could meet tomorrow, just the two of us. There are some things I'd like to discuss with you. I rested a hand on the cool metal railing. Fine, text me the address. The text arrived the second I hung up. I didn't look at it. Back inside, I wrapped my arms around her as she slept fitfully. I kissed her forehead, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. You've been through so much, I whispered. She nuzzled against my neck, curling into a little ball. I gently rubbed her back, and I felt her body slowly relax. When I pushed open the door to the private room, Donovan Sterling was already there. The air was filled with the scent of rare, single-origin coffee. I sat down across from him. Mr. Hayes, do you like coffee? He asked, pushing a cup toward me. I'm not picky. You seem like a very easygoing person, Mr. Hayes. His words were polite, but I couldn't help but smile. What's so funny, Mr. Hayes? I'm not a woman. How could you possibly tell if I'm easygoing or not, Mr. Sterling? I had no desire to sample the coffee, but I had no idea what his game was. I picked up the cup and took a small sip. I asked you here, Mr. Hayes, to talk about Sarah, Donovan began. I didn't interrupt, letting him continue. These past few months abroad have been incredibly difficult for her. Knowing her, she probably hasn't told you any of the details. I set down my cup, my voice calm. Mr. Sterling, if you have something to say, please say it. You don't need to test me. Fine, I won't beat around the bush. I want to ask you, with everything that's happened to her, what can you possibly do to help? I know you help her a lot to get her back here, I said, pausing. But how can you be sure you'll be so lucky every time? Apex Innovations isn't just your company. I'm sure you faced a lot of pressure over this. Mr. Hayes, you are incredibly naive. One chooses an opponent who is an equal. What do you possibly have to fight me with? Donovan's eyes were filled with contempt. I shook my head and smiled. Mr. Sterling, you're mistaken. I have no intention of fighting you, or anyone else. I love Serafina, not because she's part of the Vance family, or for any other reason. I just love her. Whether she was part of Vance Corp or not, I would love her. As you said, maybe I can't help her much in that world, but I can give her everything I have. How much can you truly give? Having said my piece, I stood up to leave. And do you have any idea what she's had to endure? I sat back down and let him finish. You don't understand people like us. In your eyes, we're contemptible. And frankly, we feel the same way about people like you. I cut him off. Mr. Sterling, if you're looking for someone to complain to, I'm afraid I don't have the time. He poured a fresh cup of coffee, his expression unreadable. Maybe you don't care about her status, as the Vance heiress or just as Serafina. People like us. To put it nicely, we stand at the top of the pyramid. Do you really think she can fall from that pedestal? Even if she could accept it, could you stand by and watch her bow down to the very people she used to look down on, just to save her company? To have everyone mock her, everyone trample on her? Would that be fine with you, too? For us, the only way is up. I was silent for a moment. He had struck a nerve. I had no rebuttal. After a long pause, I looked at him squarely. Mr. Sterling, thank you for telling me this. But I'm sorry, if she needed me to leave, I would. I don't need you to remind me of my place. Also, Serafina is my girlfriend. I will take care of her. And I believe that, given your relationship, if she truly loved you, she would have been with you a long time ago. So I hope you will also be mindful of your own position and not cause her any more trouble. Not long after, Serafina started traveling abroad again. The situation at Vance Corp was more complicated than it seemed. The financial strain was worsening, and the company began mass layoffs. The exhaustion on her face grew deeper by the day. Sometimes, I did wonder if a strategic marriage was the only way to solve her problems. I even brought it up indirectly with her once. She told me that there are always problems. If she used marriage to solve this one, what about the next one, and the one after that? I was surprised by her resilience, by the incredible strength she possessed. I even joked with her, Sarah, you seem different than before. She thought for a long time before replying, yes, I think I'm a little different. It's like, when you're by my side, I'm not as scared anymore. I taught her how to love, and she taught me how to be loved. We weren't kids anymore, but we were still learning how to love each other.